Welcome to the Mind Sensei Podcast. I'm your host, Peter Taz, and I'll be taking you on a journey to the world of martial arts and introduce listeners to some of the most inspiring and knowledgeable practitioners from around the world. Whether you're a seasoned martial artist or a curious beginner, or just enjoy hearing a great story, the Mind Sensei Podcast Down Under has something for everyone. So tune in, sit back, and let us take you on a journey through the world in martial arts. Welcome to the Mind Sensei Podcast. I'm your host, Peter Taz, and today I'm thrilled to welcome one of American Kenpo's most innovative teachers, a master whose career bridges tradition and evolution in the martial arts world. Our guest is Mr. Chuck Epperson, a 9th degree black belt in Ed Parker's American Kenpo, founder of Epperson Brothers Kenpo Karate Dojo in Chico, California, and the driving force behind the acclaimed Kenpo Kali system. With roots tracing directly to Ed Parker via Grandmaster Richard Planas and a unique blend of Filipino Kali, Eskrima, and classic boxing in his curriculum, Mr. Epperson has spent over 4 decades refining teaching involving real-world self-defense for students of all ages. So let's step onto the mat and into the mind of Mr. Chuck Epperson. Welcome to the Mind Sensei Podcast, sir.
Thank you so much, Peter, for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
Let's get started and let's talk about what inspired you to start practicing in the martial arts and how you found your first style.
Well, it was in the late 70s. Of course, I was familiar with martial arts from TV, Kung Fu and Bruce Lee and stuff like that, but was never really interested in the martial arts. I was a very serious athlete my whole life. As a young boy in elementary school, started competing, in elementary school in all the basic main sports that were popular back then, football, basketball, and baseball. And took it very serious, always trained every day. Also, I'm a musician like Huck, so I started playing in the Holy Roller Gospel Pentecostal Church band when I was 5 years old and started writing my own songs when I was 10 and 68. And so I was very busy doing that and never really thought about martial arts. I just saw it on TV. And I was raised in a really rough area called Woodland, California, about 19 miles west of Sacramento. So my dad taught me how to box a street fight just to get home from school every day because he pretty much had to fight every day. Matter of fact, every Friday down about 3 blocks down the street in an orchard, on every Friday, all the girls fought. So everybody would meet down there and watch these girls go at it, and they were pretty gnarly. You wouldn't really want to fight these girls. So it was a different area. So that, as far as, defending myself in any kind of physicality was basically in the streets. And back then, most of the street fighters were those black pointed beetle boots. And they would flip kick you, to get your hands to drop, like trying to kick in the groin, and then catch you with their boxing techniques. So those were the kind of people that I dealt with. And, just coming home from school, rough areas, just walking by people's houses, kids would come out and jump in. If you beat them up, then the next day had to beat their older brother up. And if you beat him up, the next older brother came. And when you beat all them up, then their cousins started coming in. It just never ended, So it's kind of a rough way to start. But, it's because of my father. He is a short, dark Cherokee Indian guy. So being, dark complected, and being a male human being, he had to fight a lot too. So that's kind of, as far as combatives go, that was what, helped me survive the streets, and then we moved to Chico when I was 10 years old in 68 and continued competing in all the sports and even tried track and even broke records in track. I was a very serious athlete, something that I basically preach to my students all the time. If you want to be the best and you want to, be respected, you got to be the hardest worker. It's old school mentality. So basically in the late 70s, my wife was working at a hamburger joint, and Dale Everwine, who became my first Kenpo instructor, his wife was working there too. And they became friends, and they were talking about their husbands, me and Dale. Dale was also a very gifted athlete and has scholarships to go anywhere in the world in basketball and baseball. He's 6'7", and he had come down with Chris from Alaska. He was working at the famous bar up there, Chico Charlie's, and started training with a Japanese guy up there. And I think Chico Ryu was a 1960 world champion Japanese fighter, bare knuckle guy. And so he was in the he went up there in the psychology program because he was pursuing that. Well, in late 77 or 78, he moved down to Chico to transfer to Chico State to continue his education in psychology because he heard they had a great program there. And he was a bartender, so he went to a place in Chico back then called the Hatch Cover, which was a famous steak and lobster place. And when he walked in, the head bartender just happened to be hooked. And the whole place was a Kenpo hang lot. The owners, the cooks, the waiters, bartenders were all Kenpo guys, and so he got into Kenpo. So our wife said, let's get together, let's have our husbands. Oh, by the way, Dale's a musician too. And we got together and started, jamming and played music. Then he asked me my background of sports, and he said, man, I'm doing this system called Kenpo, and I told him about my boxing. And so he said, well, man, we should go out in the front yard and spar. So we go out in the front yard and spar, and I'm picking them apart with my hands because I'm boxing techniques. And he said, man, you got to do Kenpo, man. You got great hands. Kenpo's, 70% hands and 30%, low kicks. And I said, well, I would, but I was young and was busy and kind of poor, didn't have a whole lot of money. And, this went on for about probably 6 months. And finally, every time we come to the front door, we say, hey, and we start sparring. He goes, man, you got to do this stuff. He goes, man, I'll teach you for free. I went, oh, all right, I can't pass this up. I got to do it. So we went out to, there's a famous Bidwell Park in Chico. It's like famous movies where the Errol Flynn movies were filmed. A bunch of famous movies were filmed here in this famous park. And we went out there in 110-degree weather in August. And, basically we did like a 4-hour lesson. He taught me the entire yellow belt material, and we sparred and did all the body work and the freestyle. And I just basically absolutely fell in love with it, just hook, line, and sinker. And I haven't stopped. I've been doing it every day since then. So I've always credited my first instructor, Dale Everyone, is the person who inspired me and got me into Kenpo. He's the one responsible for it.
Is he still around?
Yeah, he lived in Alaska a few times. He's been living up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho for quite a few years now. Last I heard from a good friend, Kenpo guy, Al Myrtle in Anderson, is he hooked up with one of his old girlfriends, and they moved to Alabama, of all places, because they were tired of being in the cold weather. And I said, well, it's probably not cold in Alabama. So, but I haven't heard from him for a while, but he would show up every now and then to the Planas annual seminars. We just, in April, right before he passed away, we just did his 38th annual here in Chico. Would have been 39th, but had to cancel one about, must have been 3 or 4 years ago when he became so ill. That's when his health really started going down. He couldn't make it. He was going to try anyway. And I said, no, you can't even hardly walk. I'm not going to have you go to the airport. I'll just call everybody, cancel it. Otherwise it would have been our 39th, but he was just not doing it so well.
We actually rang him, I think it was about a week before, when Mr. Ollie had his camp, because I was at camp with Marty and Steve White, and the coffee pot was empty in the camp. And I said, being Australian, I bought a coffee machine. I brought beans from Australia. I said, well, come and let me destroy your concept of coffee. And Marty goes, no, you got to come and do this, to Steve White. So we were walking back to the room, and all we were doing was talking about stories of Huck, rolling off one up the other, And so when we got back to the room, we made coffee and we rang him on the phone. So all three of us spoke to him on the phone at camp, and I think it was about a week later he passed away. But I'm glad we made that phone call,
Absolutely, yeah. When it got towards the end, I would call Tottie's house because she took Huck in and cared for him and got him a hospital in her front room and until he passed away. And I called him one time, and then after that, it was like he was the point where he couldn't talk anymore. And but she was really gracious, and put the phone up to his ear and let me talk to him. And he really could just kind of grunt or make sounds, so I knew he could hear me. But I just wanted to, thank him for everything.
Definitely. He had far-reaching influence, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's, and I found out a lot of things about him, and same thing with me. And it made me realize why we connected so much. A lot of our childhood and our history of our lives were a lot alike. And um, I didn't realize this till I talked to Tanya, but, she said that Kenpo saved his life. I said, well, you know what it saved my life too.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people everyone pretty much I talk to always says that, it saved me from going to prison, it saved my life, and like I say, I've met some of the best friends that I have through the art, you know.
Absolutely. Friends for life. I mean, so powerful, special, It's another great thing about it, I just, I couldn't live without it. Just kind of like music. Can't really imagine living life without those two things. Yeah. And then, basically, me and Dale were the only guys really training, hard at that dojo, 7 days a week, and,
Hmm.
as another time Huck could come to Chico to try and basically get away from Kenpo and quit. But like you said in the last part of the book Journey, is that he said that I tried to quit Kenpo many times, but my students wouldn't let me. And come to think of it, I'm glad they didn't. And if he just loves the art so much that if he sees you out there working your buns off, I mean, really doing the work, training hard, earning everything, he can't help it. He's going to step on that mat and help you. That's just Huck. And it was really kind of impromptu. He just kind of took us under his wing and started teaching us. And then, Dale left in 82. He got his black belt. And then Huck just said, well, just pop over to my house anytime you want, man. And we'll, do lessons in my house. Big mistake. Because 2 days later, I went to his house and knocked on the door at 8 o'clock in the morning, like 10 times. He finally opens the door. His hair is all messed up, looking at me like, who in the heck is knocking on mine? That's almost like the Karate Kid movie or something. And he opens the door looking at me, and I said, oh, you said I could come over any time. And he was just like, all right, come on in. Right. And, it was just, it wasn't really formal. It just kind of happened. It was kind of neat. It was like, it was meant to be, and I just, tried to spend as much time around him as I possibly could. And of course, he'd come to the dojo. And, back then I had about, probably 10 animals that were willing to train bare knuckle with me every day. I'd even go down to the dojo because by the time I was a purple belt, Daryl, who was the owner who bought the dojo from Bill Sheehan when he was a brown belt. Bill Sheehan was Huck's best friend. He's the guy that came from Pasadena and opened up the Ed Parker American Kenpo School in Chico in 1974. So he's responsible for all of us. And Daryl took it over as a brown belt, and then Dale left, and so Huck basically took me over, and just he would come down on Sunday mornings. I would do a 3-hour technique line class on Sundays from 9 to 12 on a Sunday morning. And if I could get away with it, if I had people willing to do it, I'd still be doing it. I'm still down there 6 days a week. And if I have out of town students coming in on Sunday, I'll go down there then because I'm very loyal to my students. But if he came by and saw me, he would pull in and spend the whole 3 hours on a Sunday and come down there and teach me and my students. And of course, always demonstrate on me. So I don't know how many times I saw stars, especially back then when Huck was very kind of young and ornery, you might say. Huh. And on this way, wham, thunder and hammer. Not by wham, they're dropping it. And I'm sitting here seeing stars, but excellent control, but just, very powerful. As well, there's a lot of great stories about Huck. When he came to Chico, and he was the head bartender there. And when I met Huck, he was a 32-year-old fifth degree black belt. And he would go down to the Madison Fair, which is a famous rowdy college bar. And Bill and Gene would go in there with him, and they would want to go in and hang out, but all the bouncers and bartenders would like be giving them the evil eye. And then Bill and Gene were wondering why. And then they finally found out because one of the bouncers came up and go, "What are you doing with that guy?" "Well, that's Huck, it's our best friend." And I guess come to find out is that Huck would go down there and pick fights with the bouncers and stuff. And Gene would go, "Bill, tell Huck to quit doing that. Why is he doing that?" And so he asked Huck why, and he said, "Well, I'm trying to get him to come down to the dojo so I can teach these guys how to fight." There's all kinds of funny story about Huck. He was a pretty ornery guy back then,
Yeah.
Just hardcore teacher, like he says, I'm old school, Payne's the best teacher, and I absolutely agree with him. That's another reason why I love him. Just the truth all the time. Yeah, tell you what you need to hear.
Yeah.
Tell people you don't have a tough skin and you need an instructor to tell you how great you're all the time. You won't be training with Huck because you're not Indian. And he's going to tell you what you need to hear, and you're the honest, and he's going to do nothing but constantly help you and critique you and until you get it right. And if you're a hard worker, you will get it right. You will put the reps in, you'll do the work, and you'll earn it.
I think the difference these days is the current generation cannot handle critique. They don't handle it very well. So, when you have someone who focuses on fixing all the areas you need work on, they don't last long.
Yeah, the kind of person that works with Huck is the kind of person that wants that. You need it, you want it. You wouldn't have it any other way. And that's the kind of person that fits with Huck for sure. Definitely.
Yeah. So was Kenpo the first system you started?
And yes, I'd never trained in a martial art ever. No, I'd had a lot of my friends try to get me into karate and other arts, and I just would watch them do stuff, and I would just go, "No, I'm not going to do that." I've never fought that way. I've never fought anybody that way. It wouldn't work. I will stick to my athleticism and my boxing and the street fighting because that's what kept me alive in the streets. Because I know, if you want to be good with your hands, pugilism, punching, you need to master Western boxing. They call it the sweet science for a reason. And that's one thing that really sold me on it when Dale told me that that's why he wanted me to do Kenpo, because I had great hands. He goes, "It's a Western boxing-based karate system." And then I watched him doing technique line where they're grabbing the guy and checking his leg and holding him down and smashing him. I go, "Well, I've done that street fights. I know that works. Well, if that's karate, then yeah, I'll do that too. Sure." Oh, and by the way, we fight full contact bare knuckle. And like, oh my God, I'm in. I am in because I've been doing combat full contact sports my whole life. I'm like, okay, now that sounds like fun. And those things really sold me on it,
You say you had me at bare knuckle.
Yeah, I have pictures in the dojo of me fighting in tournaments at bare knuckle. Yeah. Matter of fact, one of the ones, the picture I have in the dojo, it shows Dale Eberwine, my instructor, sitting next to Master Bob Osman from LA because Phil Malton was the guy that came up in was it 81 or 82, started the bare knuckle fighting class at the Kenpo school. And he put on the first bare knuckle tournament in Chico. It was 79 or 80, I believe. I have a picture of it. And there were 5 broken noses that day. Matter of fact, one of them was my first instructor, Dale Eberwine. Yeah, that's a funny story.
We're going to have to hear that.
Dale was amazing. 6'7", legs, tree trunks, fast, his front, good kicker, quick hands. His favorite thing was the front leg sweep, and by the time you hit the ground, he'd have the blade of his foot in your throat, or his chicken kick. He would fake the front and then come right over the top. I saw him almost kill people with that chicken kick him in the solar plexus or over with. Well, he was fighting for first place, and he was beating the guy, even with spinning elbows, excellent control. Well, he broke the Kenpo golden rule. He scored on the guy and turned around, took his eye off his opponent, the guy sucker punched him and put his nose on the other side of his face. He fell like a tree. It knocked him out. He was out before his head bounced off the cement gymnasium floor, basketball gym. I'm like, oh my God. So Randy Kemp and Dr. Terry Freddy was there, actually Kenpo guys. They were the paramedics there. They go over in there waking him up and doing the thing and waking him up. You know, I'm watching this whole thing go down from the sideline. I'd already done all my fighting. And I see Huck go over because he was the head referee all day. He's in the picture of my dojo. And Bill Sheehan and Craig McCoy, they were the refs. I looked over there and Huck comes, Dale's laying on the ground. They're working on him. They're waking him up and Huck stands above him with his face there he's looking straight down at Dale. And I heard him doing his head like this and saying something. And I went, I wonder what he was talking to Dale about, you know? So anyway, the tournament's all over. We're going to go to Randy's house. We're going to hang out and kind of celebrate. Well, by the time me and my wife get there, I come walking in and Dale's sitting in a chair with a stiff drink, his nose all bandaged up. And they got him on pain. I had to re-break his nose, you know, straighten it out, all that stuff. I go, hey, brother, how you doing, man? He doesn't say anything. He doesn't answer me. He just goes, could you believe that little blankety blank, blank, blank? And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, Huck. I go, what are you talking about? Did you see him come over there when I was laying down and you can see him talking to me? I said, yeah. I go, what'd he say? He said, boy, you know better than take your eyes off your opponent. And laughed at him and walked away. And Dale was so angry. Oh, man. I said, hey, dude, he's just telling you the truth again. He was just in a lot of pain, but there's a typical Huck for you right there, man. No sympathy whatsoever. Just you broke the golden rule. Never take your eyes off your opponent till you're home sitting at the dinner table. I heard that's a famous old Tom Kelly saying.
Definitely. Bro, you've also ventured into other arts. You have your bit of Kali you got involved in. So after Kenpo, what other art were you involved in?
Yeah, it was after a seminar. Actually, when Dale Eberwine moved back down from Alaska, he was living in Sacramento, and he brought in Huck a couple of years while he was still here. And it was after a Huck Planas seminar in Sacramento, Elk Grove area. And me and Bruce were hanging out with Huck and talking Kenpo. And he goes, hey, hand me that. Dale had a sai over there. He goes, oh, yeah, give me that. He grabs a tennis shoe. So he grabs the sai in his right hand and the tennis shoe in this hand and started introducing me to Bruce to one of the most sophisticated categories of Kali, long and short training, stick and knife. But not easy stuff. And took a sai and a shoe and basically did the angle one, snake and bait, bridge, block a strike, strip, disarm, break his arm, throw him. I was like, oh my God. Hook, line, and sinker. Everybody gave up after 4 hours. I was out there like me and Huck always do, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night outside till it got so dark we couldn't see. And I just never stopped. I just fell in love with it. And then I did that until I was introduced to Anthony Kleeman of the Kukoi Dosepari's Eskrima system in Cebu. And I met him through one of my black belts, Paul Sneed, was from LA. And he was doing Kenpo with me and Kali. I've always done my group classes of Filipino arts on Saturdays and then, you know, private during the week. That he went down, he would always go like Thanksgiving, Christmas back to LA to visit his family. And he always would go to Benny the Jet's gym to train and Benny up and just stay in shape because Paul was a very serious athlete. Martial arts, he's a black belt in Taekwondo and Tang Soo Do. He's just a serious guy. Well, he comes back and comes in and goes, oh man, Sensei Chuck, you got to meet this guy I met at Benny Plates. I go, really? He goes, yeah, his name's Anthony Kleeman. He's a big 6'4" guy from Australia. And he's at Benny's gym. He's, you know, at the time he was a 3-time heavyweight stick fighting champion. And he's learned Benny Jet's kickboxing system. So he was a instructor there and he was teaching Dosepari's. And so, you know, Paul talked about doing the Filipino arts with me. and then train with Anthony and told Anthony you got to meet. So we set it up to where he brought Anthony in to Chico State College here to do a seminar, and he brought him to my dojo on a Friday night sparring class. We were just getting done. That's how me and Anthony met. And he started showing me all his doce pares. I started showing him all my, all Kali stuff. And I told him right up that, I love all of it, but one of my favorite categories is long and short training, stick and knife. And we sat there for 2 hours and nonstop, and we just hit it off. And I just immediately went right into doce pares, Eskrima with him. And he's my direct instructor. And then for quite a few years, of course, I always had Huck in once a year. I started bringing in Kikoi once a year, and I was bringing in Anthony 2 times a year. So I was hosting 4 seminars a year for quite a few years. Yeah. And I have 3 different black belts in doce pares, Eskrima, which is all the weapons, Eskrito, which is a system that Kikoi put together in the 40s. It's basically judo, jiu-jitsu, and aikido with your weapons, which I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite parts. And then a black belt in Tangamut, which is basically empty hand fighting. Yeah, so and so that's part of my Kenpo Kali too. Of course, my Kenpo Kali it's Kenpo and Kali, but it's also it's everything I've ever learned. I blend it all together, but it's geared towards all the master keys of Kenpo. And that to talk to Huck about it, going, hey Huck, and I'm young and asking dumb questions, I guess. Hey Huck, do you ever notice that Kenpo's a lot like Kali? And he can teach me the ways he always would teach me because he knows my personality. He goes, Kenpo is Kali without the weapons, and walks away. I go, oh, and then this way he always taught me. I'd be asking him, well, what about the way? He goes, listen. He'd grab my black belt and jerk on it and go back to white belt, walk away. I'm like, oh, okay. Hey, Huck, what about this one thing? He goes, man, you can't see the forest for the trees, man. It's right in front of you. And he'd walk away from me. That's all I'd get. That's the way he always taught me. Till I got older and later on, then that kind of changed where we would sit there and just go for hours, just so addicted to it, and he'd talk about, yeah, I'm the same way, man. Sometimes I'll lay there at night, fiddling my fingers, thinking of, creating ways to, make Kenpo even better than it is. And that's the stuff that I really enjoy doing. And I got that from Parker and Huck. You need to tailor this art to suit your individual needs and abilities and, your personality. And I'm a very creative person, so it's just the perfect art for me. And I remember the first seminar I did with Ed Parker, he said something that really hit me and made me think I definitely chose the right art. He said, Kenpo rule, never leave your opponent standing. I went, okay, he's from the streets. Right on. This is definitely the right system for me. That's another that just popped in my head. I just remembered that. That is something that really stuck with me. I went, okay, I definitely made the right choice. And I would even, even when I was younger, I would kind of question Huck about stuff like, well, how do you feel about, training and other stuff, And he goes, try to learn whatever you can from whoever you can, and walked away. I'm like, perfect, because I was already doing it anyway. I just wanted to, see where his head was at. And of course, that's Huck's, giving you the permission, and not stifle yourself. Be flexible, know the whole chess game of life and death of self-defense. Don't have any weak areas. Try to be good at everything. And that's what I've imparted to my students. And even when I competed in tournaments, that's why I would compete in all the events to be an example.
And so you started with Bell Everline in Chico, is that right?
Yes. And then Huck just kind of, would walk on the floor because he'd see we're training hard, and he would just give us impromptu private. I remember the first time he worked with us, we were doing 5 stars. He goes, do that first move again. No, do it again. You're telegraphing. He literally made us, and this is back when, we were like training full contact. He made us do the first move of the block of that roundhouse punch back and forth for 30 minutes before he'd even let us do the next move. That's a typical Huck. And we were tough and in shape and strong. And your arm, the next day, but that's how much of a professionalist he was. Just to do the first move right, to get your base and block correctly from point of origin, no telegraphing. and run through his knee, all the run through the knee type techniques we have, and make sure you do it correct. We were like, whoa, this guy is serious business. But we willingly did it without questioning, but that's another reason why I love him so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Do it over and over and over and over, however long it takes to get it correct. That's what the rules of motion are all based on, to teach you how to move correct and be effective and stay safe. That's why we follow those rules.
Okay. So when did you start training in Kali? Did you say you started?
Did you Kali? Introduced me to Kali in the mid 80s, about 85 or 86. Yeah.
And did you learn off anybody, or was it mainly off Huck?
Mainly off Huck. But also I had one of my friends give me Danny Losanto tapes and some of his students, and I would study those. I learned a lot off of those too. But what Huck taught me was like the base of all that, and he would teach me stuff, even those guys. It's amazing how Huck never really ever, got ranked in it, but the knowledge and the ability and his style of how he did stuff, it was just typical Huck. It was so excellent, efficient in body mechanics and timing and just proper technique and positioning for leverage and focus. It's just everything, just everything you did was just flawless pretty much. It always amazed me, even as he got older and he started trying to bring Kali into our Kenpo seminars, because some of the guys at Europe said we'd really like to start doing that. So he started doing it over here too, which he would always have me demonstrate because I was the only one that really knew all that stuff. But it didn't last long, because he'd come to the next seminar, okay, let's pick it up from there, but nobody would practice. He's like, guys, I didn't teach you this for you to forget it. Typical Huck. And so he just he quit doing it because nobody would take the time to, they said, yeah, we want to do that. But then he'd show you all this great stuff. The next seminar comes around 3 or 4 months later. Nobody remembers anything. So you got to start all over. So you're not really getting anywhere. So he just kind of gave up on it. But I wish he would have kept doing that. But, you have to have the interest,
Yeah. Well, with Eskrima, you were saying was it Anthony Kleeman that you started studying with? Or
Yes. Yeah, my direct instructor and all my rankings and testing. And that's one thing I really liked about Anthony too. He's old school too, because, Kokoi would show up and try to promote me to black belt. And I would just go, no, I have to respectfully decline, Grandmaster, because, I've only been doing this for like a year, and I don't want to, disrespect my instructor, Anthony, because he's my teacher. But I guess the Filipino artists, they do that a lot. But I'm old school. I'm not going to accept a rank after only, he obviously could tell I'd been doing stuff for a long time, and I would tip my dose paris to screaming serious too, like everything. But, time and rank is important to me. I want to put the time in. I want to do the work. I want to earn things. And he goes, oh, yeah, Chuck, yeah, you're right. We can't because Anthony was one of his favorite students. Every time he would do a seminar, he would always be mentioning Anthony's name. So he was obviously very proud of Anthony. And it took about 3 more times. And finally, he goes call Anthony on the phone because I rejected black belt, grading again. Because for one, I just didn't want to get given it. I wanted to test. I want to go through a grueling test. I want to earn it. But so I'd get Anthony. So I called Anthony on the phone. He was in LA. I said, Grandmaster wants to talk to you, Anthony, because he's wanting to promote me again to black belt. And I told him I don't want to. It was all right. Let me talk to him. So he goes, Chuck, you take over. So I take over the seminar. While he gets on the phone, and he comes back about 15 minutes later, goes, yeah, you're right, Chuck. We wait. We don't want to disrespect Anthony. Yeah, you test in front of him for your black belt. And I had other masters that would come, bring him from San Jose to my place. And I remember them coming up and talking to me about, man, Chuck, we really respect you for that, because most people would have took that. We really respect you for, not accepting that and waiting and putting time in and earning it and getting that rank from your direct teacher. So I remember that, yeah. And they're all good guys, But Anthony's an excellent martial artist, excellent teacher, very thorough, smart guy, very intelligent. I'm a huge guy, 6'4", moves like a lightweight. Yeah, he's very talented. Yeah, it was an honor to be a student for sure.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about your black belt grading. So your Kenpo black belt grading, let's start with.
Oh yeah, one thing I'm so happy about, so proud of, and another reason why I love Huck so much. I know what it was like with other guys because I only know my relationship with Huck. Um, that back then in the 70s and 80s, that if you were his personal student and you were testing for any brown or black belt degree, it was a requirement from Huck. You had to test in front of the old man. And so I'm so thankful that I was able to test in front of him 5 times before he passed away. I tested in front of him for my third, second, first brown, and my first and second black. And I was scheduled to test for my third black in front of him, but he died a month before that. So, but those were some hardcore tests. And now here's something I don't know if most people know this or not, but when I came up in the 70s and 80s, when you did any testing, you were not allowed to be in the test room the way I was brought up with Parker and Huck. Like, I tested for all 3 of my degrees of brown up in Reading when Al Myrtle actually had the school in Reading. He opened the school up in Reading, I believe, in 78 and 77, 78, something like that. And we would leave the seminar and go to his dojo in town and do our testing. It was, people weren't allowed to see testing. That's how I was raised. So we did that for third, second, and first brown. Here I am, May 1984, and Huck called me and just said, "You're testing this weekend for Showdown." I'm like, "Okay." And if you will, "What? How are you able to get ready that quick?" "Oh, dude, you know me. I train 7 days a week. I'm always ready for anything."
You're like gonna be ready.
"Hey, okay, fine. I'm ready to do whatever you want me to do." I'm like, "Great," because I would test and I would see guys literally shaking, scared to death to test in front of the old man. I could not wait to test in front of him. I love testing in front of him. That's showing my hard work, man. You know?
And I think that's the key is that when you're on the street, there's no warm up. There's no, I need to practice. You've got to go. You've got to go. So if you're not ready all the time, you're going to be done and dusted.
Yeah, I got 10 brand new wipers and told them, my first day, I tell people, I want you to understand something. I'm always going to tell you the truth. The first thing I want you to understand, if you don't realize this, is that there's no such thing as fair fighting out that door. There never has been, and there never will be. They're not going to start now. And I'll give them examples about how some of my street fight has started. Tap me on the shoulder, I turn around, it kicked me in the groin, cross to the jaw. That's how that fight started. That's not how it ended, but that's how it started. A lot, that's why 99.99% of our techniques start from not ready. Very few ready techniques. Why? Most people aren't going to warn you. They're just going to attack you. And that's another thing I like about our Kenpo self-defense techniques. You probably won't be ready, and you're going to get hit. You might get your ass carried, and you have to have that killer warrior instinct and be able to fight all the way to the end. That's what real warriors do. Fight all the way to the ground, whatever you got to do, survive. But I'm getting to my black belt test. And I led up to this because of what I said. You are not allowed to go to these tests. Well, it's at Sierra College in Rockland, California. Big, huge college. One of the biggest seminars ever. There must have been 250 people there. It was massive. And he just released his Infinite Insights. And so I'm getting done with it, color belt seminar. And okay, we're going to have our hour break. And I knew something was up when I first got there. Craig McCoy and all these black belts, when I was going to the bathroom, were messing with me. I'm like, something's up, man. Oh, you're that student of Huck from Chico testing for show. I go, yeah. You go, yeah, man. I heard he didn't bring any, making all these comments to try and make me nervous, I'm like, well, that's interesting. So anyway, we get done, and Master Bar goes, okay, hour-long break. Just to let you know that Huck has a student from Chico, California testing for Showdown, and everybody's welcome to stay and watch the test. I'm like, what? is going on here, man? I'm like, this is not normal. So I found out later they were all messing with me, even Craig McCoy and Huck. I'm like, okay, all right, fine, no problem. So I start banging it out, and I do remember this. I remember Master Parker going, because I'm just used to training the way I train, doing all the forms. I got about done with short three and was going into long three. He goes, Chuck, you don't have to do them that hard if you don't want to. Yes, sir. Get the long three. I'm just, full speed. Just, I can't help it. That's my personality, Get done with that, go to form four, rip out form four. He goes, Chuck, you don't have to do them that hard if you don't want to. Yes, sir. In fact, I remember it like it was yesterday. So we get done with that, and then all of a sudden, they go, well, let's have you do some self-defense techniques. Oh, nobody remembered their technique list. Nobody, no, they call out names. He goes, Chuck, you just call out techniques. I go, okay. He goes, but we need somebody to come up here and dummy for Chuck's techniques. As a massive, hundreds. All these guys, their hands are going up. And I don't know if you know who Steve Orsino is. Steve Orsino was leaning back behind, hiding behind everybody. And Parker goes, Orsino. And everyone moves out of the way, and Orsino's hiding, and he goes, me? And Parker goes, yeah, you. Why don't you come up here and dummy for a stop? And Steve's like, well, oh, okay. So he comes up. I start just calling out techniques, banging them out. Boom, boom, bam, boom, boom. All right, what are you doing there, Chuck? What are you doing there? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, good. Steve, why don't you do some techniques? Steve's like, me? Yeah, you. Chuck, why don't you dummy for Steve? And you could tell the whole crowd, they're like, man, what's going on here? This is not a normal test. So I'm attacking Steve. He's doing techniques on me and stuff, So we go for like 30 minutes, just back and forth, just banging on each other, ripping out techniques. And it was what chest.
Were they testing him too?
But nobody knew it. Nobody knew it, and everybody knew something was up, but nobody could figure out what was going on. I didn't know. I'm like, what? Okay, whatever, man. I'm just working out, And finally he goes, Chuck, why don't you take a break? I go, you want me to take a break? Okay, fine. And Steve starts to walk away, and they go, I'm like, Steve, come here. He goes, what? Me? He goes, yeah, you. Why don't you show us form 4? And Steve's like, you want me to do form 4? They're like, yeah. He goes, oh, okay. You tell he's just confused and all of a sudden really nervous. He does the citation, gets to form 4, and freezes on that pick and has the brain for it. And he's like, oh, sorry, I haven't been practicing. Let me go again. So second time he goes through it, and Steve's a good forms guy. He nails it real nice. He gets done, and then they go, okay, you guys just stay there for a second. So, Huck and Parker and Craig, they're doing the stuff, and Parker comes up to me, close to me, and, says what he's going to say, and says, you easily pass, you're above and beyond what we expect, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. So, Steve's hanging out by the crowd. So I drop in, typical Huck, takes his shoes, scoots his shoe like a bull on the ground, warming his foot up, and just, sends me flying through the air like always, hit the ground, do a backflip, run back up to Parker. Parker comes up to kick me and goes, I'm not going to kick you that hard. I go, go ahead, sir. Like kicks me. I'm like, every clash, And then he goes, hey, Steve, come back up here. Same thing. And Steve's like, me? Yeah, come on up here. And comes walking up, like this weird look on his face, like, what is going on? He goes, getting a horse, that was for your second. It was a Swiley. That was his test for a second. They snuck him out of the crowd, and they'd been planning that stuff. But that was my, and I have pictures of that. But no, yeah, I was soaked with sweat, just banging it out. But that was really special, And then 1986, I tested in front of Parker for my second. And I believe Craig McCoy brought him in. That was in Davis at the college where Craig taught Kenpo. Um, but those were, all those tests were great because, I had the honor and pleasure of testing in front of Ed, and he was very, very nice to me. And Cochran ran. He loved my family, me and my brother Bruce. My dad would always come. Him and my dad hit it off. When we take lunch breaks, he'd bring his little brown bag and sit down and hang out with us and taught. Him and my dad really hit it off, and knew my whole family, brothers and sisters. And it's amazing how he remembered everybody's names. Meet you once, a year later, he'd remember your name. Everybody in my family, all my students, he remembered every one of them. Yeah, it was a very special, special time. I know a lot of my students wish they could have, started earlier so they could have met him and trained with him. But I have a lot of wonderful pictures with him and my students, me and my brother Bruce. And when we do seminars down there, we're in Northern California, but if he did up here in Northern California, he always went to Redding Owls once a year, but he did a lot of seminars in the Sacramento area, Auburn and Davis and Sacramento, and a lot of places there. We would always never miss his seminars. Yeah, it was really special. He would always call techniques, and if people would raise their hands, he'd always call me and Bruce to come up and demonstrate techniques on the body. Yeah, a really funny one was, he called that taming the mace. Nobody wanted to raise their hands. Of course, me and Bruce were, come on up. We're in this cafeteria, where the tables go into the wall. And so I do the slamming, I was supposed to, it's in the rebounding family, rebound off his arms rather than rebound him off environment for category completion, rebounding category. I throw him. There's no rebound. He sticks into one of those tables. So I shuffle and I grab him and pull him back and bam, do that and spinning back kick and oh yeah, that's it. Because there's I don't really care for that technique anyway because, too much dead time and too many things can go wrong on that, but I understand why it's there, all to match it. Base. Yeah, how you slam him and then you do the double and then you're spinning, cut your weapons in half, 3, 2, 1. Like, yeah, I'm like, all that kind of, all the stuff hard teaches, Yeah, from category completion, all that stuff, all the matchup. And def beam in the favor, but Parker laughed, man. I slammed him. Seriously, we always slam full contact. He stiffs in the wall and grabbed him. I pulled him off the phone, and then he helped me spin it back here. And Eric Lyman Parker was cracking up, man. He used to love to watch me and Bruce just bang on each other, and that's back when I think I told you the story the other day when Huck first came down and saw me teaching my little brother Bruce at that dojo in the Esplanade. It was, because we came up through the 32 technique system. We were doing the 32 techniques of orange on the body. And my brother Bruce is a lot smaller than me. I'm 6'2", and he's like 5'6", And so he's I think 11 or 12. He's just, full kind, just banging out all those. And Huck would walk in. He's like a rock star all day. Hey, okay. He's talking to everybody. Everybody quit training and go over and talk to him. He's talking to him. He kept looking over at me and Bruce, looking over. So we get done. We salute out, come over, and I go, hey, Huck, how you doing? He goes, yeah, who's that little kid you're teaching? I go, well, that's my baby brother. That's my youngest brother, Bruce. He goes, man, that kid's good. You want to keep him going for it. He could be really good someday. That's the first thing Huck ever said about my little brother, Bruce. Yep. Training hardcore, man. Banging it, man. Just doing it. Now, I was so much bigger. He hit me this full contact, man, just banging. And so that's the kind of thing. Huck, he pays attention to that kind of stuff, Yeah.
The taming the mace, but you do the back to the wall, right?
Yeah. I tell people too, it's, if you learn from Huck, I'm still trying to get my black belts to do this. You need to list all the rules and principles, all the stuff. You need to know all of it, but also list something I've never heard anybody talk about except for Huck, is a list of all the different types of techniques we have. And so a lot of techniques we have types are category completion techniques. That's why they're there. And like Huck says, he's very honest about everything, even though he put the stuff together. The most category completion techniques are not good techniques. They're just there for what they're there for. I don't understand that. But pre-category completion technique on a bunch of stuff. I'm not the kind of stuff, when I told you we sit down coffee and play guitars and talk, that's the kind of stuff. I mean, I never did a physical lesson with Huck probably the last 20 years he was alive. He's been watching me, taught me, watched me fight bare knuckle every day, compete. He knows where I am with everything. It was more this.
Yeah, right.
This. We would sit, I mean, and just and get into it, and as you get older, like to say the dragon, I was really a lot more just really into that. I really enjoy it a lot, working the brain, and understanding it, and just out of respect for him, you're going to put the time into me. I'm going to put the time in to be able to carry on your teachings. That's a huge responsibility that I accepted as a very young black belt teacher, that I want to make sure that I can try to live up to this man's knowledge.
The debate, and he loved the long-term debate and an argument. Oh.
That's why I've had a few arguments with Huck, but I tried to stay away from that. But the arguments I did have came out good, because I was actually able to convince him about certain things. Like I tell him, well, I teach my guys, because I was raised in the streets, man. I teach my guys how to do what I call self-offense Kenpo. He goes, no, you can't do that. It's self-defense. I go, I understand that, Huck. I get it. But I was raised in the streets. You did too, I'm not going to wait for your attack to try to read it. What's one of the best defenses? A very strong, overwhelming offense. You know that, for realistic self-defense. I've used that many times. They're right in the middle of shooting their mouth off, and bam, I just been cracking with a jab cross right in their mouth, right in, preemptive strike, element of surprise. I'm not waiting. I know it's going to go down. There's no escape. There's no talking your way out of it. No, I'm just going to finish. And that's one reason why I like calling Kenpo. I'm a very offensive fighter. Always have been. That's just how I operate. And he's like, yeah, well, I said, well, I'm going to sit here and wait. I understand that it's self-defense. You're going to wait for the guy to attack first, and all that stuff. But those are some of the, not really arguments, debates we had or whatever, but he would eventually actually agree with me, because he knows, I will teach self-defense, but when it comes down to the real thing, I'm going to teach you a lot more than that. I'm going to give you my experience, because I want my students to survive when it happens. And it's nasty. It's not, it's not.
You don't want them to learn the same lesson you did.
Yeah, and nothing's perfect. Nobody's perfect. You can get caught. That's just the way it is. You try to do what I call the 3 A's. I teach, even self-defense, I teach principles, acceptance, awareness, and avoidance. First thing, you got to accept this world is violent, and violence isn't prejudice. They come knocking on your door. I don't care who you are, whether you're living in a $1 million gated community, and, and you're religious, and, you're a good person, and no matter what your culture, color your skin is, violence doesn't care. Now, so you have to accept. And if you do things like we do in Kenpo, every single one of those things will chronologically fall in order. If you accept that, you're already aware. And if you're aware, you'll avoid. What I teach, the 3 capital A's is what I teach.
I think as everyone looks around with their face in the screen, which you are there.
It's not good. I push it so much, Peter, every day, all levels, all ranks, all ages. I don't water nothing down. I teach everybody the same. I feel like that's my responsibility to my students. I need to do my job and do it correct, and have integrity, and tell people the truth, that will help prepare them than not, everybody needs the truth, especially when it comes to this stuff. It's, yeah, super important. I'm sorry, I get kind of sidetracked. Sorry.
That's good.
Talking one principle, one technique, and all of a sudden I'm off over it. Forget what I'm even taught. I do it in class all the time.
Let's talk about one of the hardest things you've had to do in your martial arts journey.
Some of my, well, there's a lot of stuff. Oh man. Some of the hardest things I've had to do is bury my own students. That is, when you say the word hardest, that's by far the hardest. Because Peter, I'm a very giving person. And so I give my students everything I got. Everything. That's why when I get home at night, I'm exhausted physically, but every way too, because I just give it all away. I'm exhausted. I'm just spent. I don't have much left to give because I take it that serious, my teaching. And, to lose your students is, man, that is, as far as martial arts go, that is by far the hardest thing I've ever had to do or to deal with. And like I told you yesterday, losing Bill and Huck in the same year, a couple of months apart, that's just devastating to me. Absolutely. I'm still having a hard time with it. But losing your students is really tough. Yeah.
They end up becoming your family, really, don't they? And not by blood, by choice.
These guys are like my my brothers, my children. I mean, and Kenpo saved their lives too. I've only promoted 31 people to black belt in 47 years of teaching. Just like Huck, I don't give it away. It has to be earned, every way, shape, and form. So that says a lot. And to lose one of those guys, more than one, is just devastating to me because, yeah, absolutely my family. I mean, we are a very tight family in Chico, and it's a very small fraternity because since, the 70s, I've literally taught thousands of people, thousands, literally, and there's that saying that I tell people, people get ready to quit. I tell them, I'll tell you something that's the most common thing in martial arts in my experience. Really, what's that, Chuck? Most people quit. That's a huge fraternity. It's massive. You want to know the most I just said this 2 days ago to a parent. You want to know the most uncommon thing in martial arts in my experience? No, what's that, Chuck? People who never quit and literally do this till the day they die. That's a very, very special, small, elite fraternity of humans. And I'm grateful to know them. Those are the people that I love and respect. Even if I don't know you. I mean a lot to me.
I take my hat off to any school owner. That just, the amount of effort and time and sacrifice it takes to run a school. It doesn't matter what kind of school it is. And the fact that, everyone says, oh, they must be making a fortune, that's all this rubbish. I mean, we're not doing it for the money. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it, right? So
I just did a concert 2 weeks. Like, how long you been doing this for a living? Because they think I'm famous. I'm like, I'm not famous, trust me. And I tell people, listen, I have never played music for a living, or I'd have been homeless for the last 50 years. I do it because of the joy and the love and the power and beauty and grace of music from when I was a little boy in a Holy Roller Gospel church. Playing music. That's one of the most powerful things I got from that is, music. And same thing with martial arts. My motivation for martial arts and music was never fame and fortune. It still isn't. No. The same way I feel about music, I feel about martial arts. It is who I am. Those two art forms make up who I am as a human being, period. And I'm thankful and grateful every day I get to do those two things. Like I told you, I had to make a lot of sacrifices, a lot, for years. I mean, I had a wholesale produce business, firewood business, karate school, doing gigs at night until I had enough of a base amount of students, so I could quit breaking my back doing all that and just do the two things that really make who I am, and that's two art forms of music and martial arts, and they're the same too.
Did you get into?
Raised in a Holy Roller Gospel church, man. I started singing in the church band when I was 4 and playing guitar when I was 5, and had my first rock and roll band in Woodland, California when I was 6 years old in 1964, and we'd get out in the garage, open the garage door, and all the neighborhood kids would, sit on the driveway, and we put on concerts playing all the number one hits off the radio in the 60s. And then in 1968, when I was 10 years old, I started writing my own songs, and I never stopped.
Did you have the band? Did you have the band, or was it all your brothers or friends? Or
No, it was the neighborhood kids. There was 4 of us, yeah. And I've never well, I have a few different ones, but for a long time in Chico, my band was called Joy Spring, which my drummer, I was playing with a jazz drummer in the 70s at the time, and it was basically an old classic jazz tune called Joy Spring. And then I took about a 3-year break and put bands together, and people had gone, I go, you didn't show up to the gig. Like, well, I didn't see your name in the paper. I go, remember my name, my band's Joy Spring. So about 35 years ago, I changed it to Chuck Epperson Jr. Band, so people would know it was me. But people just asked me. I was actually doing a gig last weekend over in a really nice restaurant in Oroville, California, about 20 miles from here, and asking me about my music. I said, well, it's all original stuff. I've been performing nothing but my original music since 1977, and it's a mixture of everything. Everything I hear influence. Well, obviously my root is gospel, but if you're in a hardcore gospel church, that music's a blend of all kinds of stuff.
okay, no. So you're not called the Chuckanators.
Did you know Huck's thing at band was called the Jesters?
The Jesters, correct? It was actually called Michael and the Jesters, and then by the time they doing it down to both of them, it was just the Jesters. So I've listened to the episodes I set you on Huck, and then the memorial podcast I did recently.
Yeah, I got those.
That runs through history and a lot of stuff. But that's why I had that pull my headphones out. That's why I had that on so you can see that there's his hit record there, which is called Screwdriver. It's a surf and rock song, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, so I put that on us. That was his hit record when he was with them. So they did have a number one hit.
I'll be darned. Wow, man, I'm telling you, just thinking about Huck and his rich history, I'm so happy. People, for years now, you've been going somewhere and somebody see you, you're wearing Huck's patch, and oh wow, you're one of Huck's patch. Oh, you're so lucky. I'm like, man, dude, you don't have to tell me, man. I know. I've known it since I was a young man. I am grateful and thankful every day, brother. Trust me. I mean,
You just say luck got nothing to do with it. Grateful, but luck's got nothing to do. But
I'm telling you, it was meant to be, obviously, because I was just, a very young man at the right place in the right time, and look who walked through the door, Huck. I'm just like, I made a lot of mistakes in my life, but I must have did something right to run into these amazing people, Huck and Kukoy and Anthony. I just feel so grateful, just wonderful people, amazing, amazing martial artists, amazing minds, and just beautiful people. The kind of people that I can totally relate to, down to earth, genuine, no ego, humility, and just the best, absolutely the best. I'm just really thankful every day.
I was just saying that the other day that I've met some of my best friends and some of the nicest people just through the Kenpo journey.
Absolutely. Like I was telling you too, it's like, I'm very strongly, with my lineage, my bloodline Huck, but like I was telling you, I don't care where you come from or what your lineage is, as long as you're humble, respectful, have self-restraint, love and compassion and patience and tolerance for other humans, that makes you a martial artist, in my opinion. But if you have been passionate and you're still working every day, doing the work, earning it, I don't care what lineage you come from. You are my brother and sister. I respect you. Period. My love and respect for you is deep because a lot of people will not do that.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're a hard worker, you got my respect.
So your lineage is through Del Everwind, then to Huck. Is that right?
Yeah, Gil taught me, and I'll tell you what, man, he started teaching me when he was a green belt, and he taught me the entire 32 technique system. And I'll tell you what, he did a pretty darn good job of it. And because, I mean, when Huck took me over, he just fixed, detailed stuff. But as far as an eggshell of that and all that's a lot of a lot of material. Just tells you how sharp Dale is. Dale's a very smart, sharp individual, physically gifted, and a great teacher. One of the wonderful stories I tell, because I'll get on my students about dances, your feet, neutral, footwork. I mean, the most important stuff. And I always tell the story. One of the greatest things my first instructor ever did for me, because I was an animal 7 days a week, every day. Like I told you, Daryl bought that school from Bill when he was a brown belt. By the time I was a purple belt, he gave me a key. I was there more than him and Bill and the owners. And besides teaching at my house wherever I lived, and teaching lessons in the back of my produce truck, in the park, people's houses, I was down at that dojo every day. And Daryl was a musician too. So I get done with my produce route and I want to go in and work out. So I'd call him and wake him up because he's like, Huck, he didn't get to bed till probably 2 or 3 in the morning. He comes walking up all kind of ticked off and stuff. I'm sorry, dude. I just need to work out. He goes, all right. He opens the door and he goes, here. I go, what? He goes, take it. He hands me the key. He goes, quit calling me, man. He gave me a key to the dojo when I was the purple belt, man. Yeah. See, I can get so sidetracked, man. I could just go in 100 different directions from there. Oh, man.
Let's just finish up with this one. Let's talk about what are some of the memorable moments that you've had in your journey?
Well, I'll tell you one of the most memorable things, as far as me being a teacher and my family, two of the most proudest moments of my life was my brother Bruce testing in front of Master Ed Parker in Auburn at the courthouse there, where a guy named Andre Sims, who was a black belt underneath Bob Lyle, would bring Parker in. That's the first time I met Mike Pick. And I was so proud of him, We're talking about the committee and, people wanting Huck's patch but couldn't get it and making a new patch for them to test for a new generation, something to look forward to, and criteria, And I suggested, well, one thing you could do is like what Huck did to me. He wasn't able to make it here. He was in somewhere doing seminars, Louisiana somewhere. And I said, well, I want to put Bruce up for black in front of Parker. He goes, well, videotape him and send it to me, and I'll tell you whether he was ready or not. And the committee thought that might be a good idea, but no, me and him, I did the test with him. We did all the basics, all the katas back to back, and every single technique on the body. And I mailed it to Huck, and he called me back and said, yep, put him up. He's ready. And I was very proud of him. It was a huge board. I mean, everybody was there. Master Parker, and Mike Pick, and Arnie Annoyans, Mike Pick, and Craig McCoy, and Diane Tanaka, and Bob Lyles, and Vinton Coakledge. I mean, it was a massive board. And after Bruce got done doing his long one, he goes, sit down. Everybody else kept doing the forms. He goes, okay, time to do techniques. And I go, excuse me, Master Parker, can Bruce at least perform his black belt pieces kata for you? Oh yeah, sure, Bruce. So he does that. And every time Bruce would do something, I'm sitting on the end. Master Parker, Mike, all these people would look at me like this and look at me after watching Bruce do stuff. They go to do the technique line. He's out there just ripping, man. way beyond basic techniques, doing altering and grafting and change ups and blending from this and the backbreaker and boom, 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 bang. And then kept doing this the whole test. Looking at everybody goes, okay, Bruce, sit down. Everybody else keep down. We get done, we go in the room, and I mean, everybody was just like, wow, Chuck, you did a really good job. Bruce is amazing. And he was. I was super proud. He's my little baby brother. And then when my son Kai tested for his black belt, 2 huge ones for me.
How old's your son?
He just turned 33 on Monday. And he's married to a beautiful wife, Marissa, and we got 2 beautiful grandchildren boys. Maximus just turned 3 years old. He's like Kai. He's blonde hair, blue eyes. Maximus Kai Epperson. And boy, he lives up to his name every day, all day long. He is Epperson's ruined. It's a wild man. Oh my God. But no, that was as far as being a Kenpo instructor and I'm the guy to get my whole family into Kenpo in the 70s, and to have my brother Bruce and my son make their black belts. And same thing, had a huge board. Everyone was completely amazed by Kai. I have pictures of him in our pictures in the school. He started when he was 3 years old. A picture of him throwing a roundhouse like this above his head with long white hair. And youngest black belt I've ever promoted. He tested when he was 14. 11 years straight through, 6 days a week in the dojo. Last 5 years, he was teaching 5 days a week. Started teaching when he was 9. And yeah, very talented. Yeah. And we're a family business. People ask, well, who's the teachers? Well, me, my brother Bruce, my wife Nanette, and my son Guy. We're a family business. And it has that vibe too. When you walk through the door, you feel it.
With your wife, did you meet your wife at training, or how did you snag that one?
No, actually, we've been together 40 years. She's actually my second wife. My first wife was the one I met with Dale Everwine in the 70s. And that's a whole nother story. But my wife, Nanette, I actually met when I was delivering produce at D&D Distributing. She had moved to Chico from the Bay Area in 1979 to pursue her degree in psychology at Chico State. Well, she was a cute little blonde that I delivered the deli. And then, two months later, I'd deliver Hay-One burritos. And I just kept running into her all the time. And she was the sweet young girl that would always, I bring my produce in, and somebody have to go through it and make sure I have all the produce and sign the tag. And she was just really sweet, and I thought she was really cute. I was married, but once I got I got divorced the same year that I opened the dojo in 85. And in 1985, I went to this big, huge concert, and she just happened to be there. And that's the night we got together, and we've been together ever since, every day. And it's been 40 years. In 1985, same year I opened the dojo. But she used to tell me too that her and her girlfriends, when I trained in the Eskrima, the dojo down there had big, huge windows, that her and her girlfriends would park across the street and spy on me and watch me train. And she said all the girls at the deli used to fight over who was going to check into produce with me in the walk-in.
Nice. She obviously won that battle.
Yeah, no, she's just, to be honest with you, she saved my life too, Peter.
How'd you got her into Kenpo, obviously?
Well, we started dating and then living together and married, but and then she just said, I want to train. I said, right on. Yeah, so she's a third brown belt. By now, she's had a lot of physical issues. She'd probably be a 5th or 6th degree black belt by now, but she can only just teach. She's getting better, but for 16, 17 years, yeah, I've almost lost her 8 times. All kinds of weird stuff, but she's just unbelievable warrior. Just strong, keeps fighting through it, and just has the support of her family and friends. And I mean, her family is all gone, and her family is kind of tragic. So my father and mother and my whole family basically became her family. But her name is Nanette. She's beautiful blonde hair, blue-eyed, beautiful soul, love of my life. And people go, man, all those songs sound like you're right. I go, those songs are written for my wife. I actually wrote a song 25 years ago called Sweet Nanette. And a lot of people every time I play, they want to hear that song a lot. And most of my family, that's one of her favorite songs. I go, a lot of those songs are written for her, But no, she saved my life too here, literally. Absolutely.
I'm your host, Peter Taz, and you've tuned in to the Mind Sensei Podcast from Down Under. We want to take a moment to thank all our listeners for tuning in to the Mind Sensei Podcast. We appreciate your support and hope our show has been both informative and entertaining for you. If you haven't already done so, we would like to invite you to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. Finally, we'd like to thank our guests for sharing their knowledge and experience with us. Without their generosity, this podcast would not be possible. Thank you again for listening to the Mind Sensei Podcast Down Under. We hope that you continue to join us on this journey through the world of martial arts.